Hey, welcome. So this is Connecting with Code, the 2024 videos. We've been doing this camp for a little bit. You can visit our website at connectingwithcode.org. And if you want to see videos like this one, you can go to the /camp extension. We'll start off by introducing ourselves just a little bit. So I'm Dave Fisher. I teach at Rolls-Holman in Terre Haute, Indiana, which is a private engineering college here in Indiana. I teach computer science classes. I also teach some mechanical engineering and some robotics things. Outreach has always been something that's really important to me. I've got 4 kids. They all have an interest in coding, and you can start coding before you can read, right? And so, we're trying to start people early. This camp is really for anyone that's new to coding. It can be somebody who's new to coding because they're young in kindergarten, or it can be somebody who's new to coding because they just haven't done it before, right? And so really it's welcoming to about any age, probably as high as maybe 6, I would say. Once you get above that, you might still like it. So that's me. I'm Dave Fisher. I'll let Bob introduce himself.
Hi, Bob Schaefer. I teach at Mission College in Santa Clara, California. I also teach one class a quarter at Santa Clara University. Like Dave, I teach engineering. I teach community college students who are in their first 2 years of college, aiming to transfer to a 4-year institution. Like Dave, I also have a family of kids that are young coders. My daughters are 7 and 9, and they've been participating in the online camps and the videos that Dave and I have been making for a few years. Like Dave said, this is an opportunity for even adults, honestly, to watch videos like this and follow along through a block coding programming language called Scratch. And it's a nice, smooth introduction through the making of games to learning how code works. And the skills that are going to be presented in these videos that we make for you in the previous years, if you go back and watch those, are skills that translate directly to what one might consider higher level coding when you start using text-based and typing. But the concepts are identical, and it's actually quite possible to make some really complex games here in Scratch. And we think we have some good ones in store for you this year.
Cool. Bob's so good at remembering to say all the things that I take for granted. So I really appreciate that, Bob.
Yeah, and so this year we are going to, like most years, we have a theme. A couple of years ago, we had 2-player games. We had, other themes that we've used. Sustainability was a theme that we had last year, where we tried to make sure all of our games were focused on some aspect of making the world a better place. This year, our theme are logic games, and you'll notice in the games that we have in store for you, some of them are games that you might have seen before. I'm sure many of you have played rock, paper, scissors or tic-tac-toe. The game we're going to start with today is called Coin Collector, and the other 2 games we have in store for you are called Linear Lights Out, where when you press a light, it's going to cause the lights around it to go to the opposite configuration, and your goal is to get them all in the same pattern. And the 5th game that we're going to do for you at the end of the camp is called NIM, Pick Up Sticks. As you can see from the screenshot, we're going to be picking up things slightly different than sticks. We've got a row of balloons and rainbows and unicorns, and the goal is to pick up various objects from only one row at a time to kind of defeat your opponent. So today we're going to start with Coin Collector, where we have a piggy bank that is going to be trying to collect coins to reach a total and avoid, as you can see in that little screenshot, a thief that will take away all the money you've collected. So Dave's going to take it away here and get us started.
Yeah, pretty excited about this year. There's a couple kind of introductory, and then there's kind of a medium, and then there's some pretty big ones. So we'll see how it goes this year, but it should be exciting. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to look at a solution. So the solution is available if you go to that course website. You can find the date there. Or if you're just watching on YouTube, I'll put the links below. But we're going to actually look at a solution. Now, with the solution, you do actually kind of get access to all the code, but your goal is to build it from scratch with us. But I'll just go ahead and show what's going on. So when you hit the play button, you're a little piggy bank, and so you can drive the little piggy bank and you can collect coins. If you look at the top, oh man, some thieves. If you look at the top, you can see that right now I've got 31 cents, and I'm driving for 96. So as I catch things, it goes up, and you got to be careful to only get the ones you want. So I'm going to go ahead and try to win one here if I can. What am I in 15 cents away? Need a nickel. Excellent. Oh, and this dime. Yes. So that was an example of a win. Let's go ahead and do a not so much of a win. So I'm collecting coins. Notice that I have 30 cents, but then I catch this thief one. Now it made it sound like a coin collecting. Hey, Bob, let's try to fix that when we make it with them. So it made it sound like coin collecting, but it actually took my money away, right? And so it kind of goes up, goes up, goes up. And then if I hit the thief, it goes back to 0. The thief can actually be good, though, because if you go over, which is going to take me forever because I got to go to $1.13 this time, then the thief can actually help you, right? So I'm over. The only way I can kind of get it is to catch the thief and to start over again. Don't want to succeed at $1.13. You already kind of saw what happens there, right? So this is the game we're making. At first glance, you're like, oh, that's so easy. I could probably do that in 5 seconds, right? But games take a little while, and it takes like some planning for what you're going to do and how you're going to go through the process of building it. And also, like once you make your own game, like you can do modifications and all kinds of fun things. So that's the goal for Coin Collector that we're doing in this video. Since it involves getting all these coins, these images for penny, nickel, dime, things like that, we do give you starting code. So again, I'll make sure to put the link, oops, wrong slide. I'll make sure to put the link in the YouTube channel video, and then also you can get access to the slides. So I eventually got there. So this is the Coin Collector starting code. Now, if you run this file, nothing happens, right? So it's just nothing. And so what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to click on the remix button. And what the remix will do is it'll make a copy of the whole project and put it into your area. And then the first thing that I like to do is I like to change the names. Right now mine's called Coin Collector Starting Code Remix. I'm going to get rid of the word starting code, and I'm going to get rid of the word remix. And so now I'm ready to go. Let's see what code we got. So if you're new to Scratch, I'll just kind of say a couple of things. My hope is that maybe you've seen a little bit of Scratch before. But the area here is called the stage. And this is where our performance happens. This is where the actors kind of do their thing. I've got 2 actors. In programming languages, we don't call them actors, though. We call them sprites. A sprite is a graphics thing that has code. So right now there's this piggy, but there's no code. This is the coding area. And then it's also got images or costumes that could represent them. So this sprite has a costume. It could be a piggy. It could also be a horse, right? So same sprite, but it could actually have 2 different costumes. We're going to use the piggy. If you like the horse, you can do that. The other actor or sprite in this game is the one called Coin. And you can see that the coin actually has 5 costumes. These 5 costumes have both names and numbers. So there's quarter, dime, nickel, penny, thief. Assuming you're in the U.S., you're pretty familiar with these images. If you're outside the U.S., this is U.S. money. I'm guessing you know that too. And you can also refer to them by number. So number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. And you'll notice that this one also has no code at all. The final thing that we've got going on here is we've got a backdrop. The backdrop, also called the stage, is kind of like a sprite. So you can put code on the stage, and then instead of being called costumes, it has different backdrops. And so right now there's 2. There's a white one, and then there's this forest one. By the way, if you wanted to change it, you totally can. There's 2 different places you can click on buttons to change it. You can either click on this button over here to choose a different backdrop, or the button over here to choose a different backdrop. I'm fine with this backdrop, so I think I'll leave it. Bob, anything important that I forgot to say in kind of introducing Scratch some?
No, I don't think so. You just clicked on the very last thing, which I think you might have mentioned, but if not, the backdrops can also have code. A lot of times you have overarching code for the whole thing, and as you can see there, Dave clicked on that code button that exists for your sprites or your backdrops. And so there's lots of options of where to put code. And as you get more experienced with writing code, you'll make a decision as to where that code should go to best run your program. But often there's a lot of choices that you get to make as the programmer, as the designer of the code. when you're playing or practicing with our games, we encourage you to follow our steps, just so if you do get stuck, you can always pause it and try to copy what we've got and get back in sync. But as you write your own, there's a lot of flexibilities and a lot of different ways to make the same thing happen.
Cool. All right, so let's get started. So go ahead and so you can select on, the hero or the coin or this, that, and the other. We're going to start with the hero. So go ahead and select the hero. You can see that the hero has no code, so it's completely empty in here. And you can see that there's actually a lot of commands that you can bring in. So I'm just kind of like scrolling through here so you can see them all. There's quite a few. I haven't counted them, but like 100 plus. And the idea of Scratch is that you don't type anything at all. You just drag the code from here to there. And we're going to get better at it. Since there's like 100 commands, they've color-coded them by their type. And you can also more quickly navigate through them just by clicking these buttons, and it'll kind of like jump to that area. And we'll learn as we go. All right, so starting with the pig, the first thing I want to do is I want to bring in an event. So click on Events. And the most common event that we start with is this one right up here. It's at the top. When green flag clicked. And then I'm going to choose to zoom in just so you can see it a little bit more clearly. You don't have to zoom in for yours. So this first command we've got is an event. And the event is listening for somebody clicking this green flag that's right here. That's a very common event in Scratch, and it's how most programs start. When you click the green flag, it runs all the code that's underneath it. You'll notice that there is no code beneath it, so that's what we're going to have to fix to start with. The first thing I want to do is I want to write some code that makes our little piggy start in the very middle of the screen at the bottom. And so I'll go ahead and show you how to do this. Click on Motion. Now, in the motion area, the command we're going to want is the command go to XY, but don't bring it in just yet. I'm going to have you do something first. If you look at the numbers and just kind of remember this, it says -90 for me, -124 for me. Yours will be a little different. But if I move the pig somewhere different, see how they changed? Now they're 68 and 30. And so wherever the pig is currently at, it makes the command, it updates the command to be that value. So I'm going to use that to my advantage. I'm going to set the pig with his feet kind of like to where it looks like he's just kind of like right on the bottom and roughly the middle. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. So mine, it did -5, -127. We're going to talk about X's and Y's and grids and things like that. But for now, just know that it changes as I change. And then I'll go ahead and put this on here. If your numbers are slightly different, that's fine. It's no big deal. Now when we run our program, so if I hit the green flag, it actually runs that line of code. Now you probably didn't see it. It was probably too fast to see because the pig was already there. So I'm going to move the pig somewhere different. And when I hit the green flag, there you will see the pig snap to that location. Cool. So pretty easy, not that exciting. Our code right now, it runs and finishes in like a millisecond. But actually what we want this code to do is we want it to, anytime I press the left arrow, move to the left. Anytime I press the right arrow, move to the right. So that's our goal. And so we want the pig to continually be listening for this.
So this might be a good time, actually, if you don't mind bringing up your XY grid.
Yeah.
We can talk a little bit about this because the motion that we're about to do is going to require us to change the position as those buttons are pressed. And so you'll notice that when Dave placed this pig on the bottom, that Y value got very negative. And as he placed the pig towards the center from a left-right perspective, it got very close to 0. Well, this grid, if you can see it, shares with you the different positions. X is an axis that goes left to right. If you've ever done any plotting of something, depending on what grade you're in, you might have plotted numbers on an XY coordinate system or a grid. X is the axis that goes left-right, and Y is the axis that goes up and down. So you'll see as Dave is sliding that pig from the left to the right, that X is getting bigger and bigger. Now in the center, the very center of this grid, both X and Y are 0. That's called the origin. if he wanted to make sure that was placed exactly at the origin, he could go and do exactly what he's doing and type 0 and 0, and it would just move the pig right there. And you'll see that the pig's center is going right to where that center is on an XY grid. So when you're dealing with coordinates on this system, we're actually going to be dealing with negative numbers as well. Numbers that you might normally use are positive. I have 6 apples. Well, negative numbers are on the other end of 0. And so you'll see that when Dave is to the left, that X coordinate, remember the left-right coordinate, is going more and more negative. So the further left he's going, the bigger the number is getting, but it's negative. So it's a bigger negative number. And similarly, as he brings the pig up or down, when it's going up towards the top of the screen, it's a bigger positive number. And it gets smaller and smaller, approaches 0, and then eventually goes negative when it hits past that x-axis and gets the most negative when it hits the ground. So we're going to be using all of that as we jump forward here, because the next step, as Dave said, is we're going to try to move this pig left and right. So you can maybe pause the video and think about what coordinate are we going to want to control to actually make this happen. All right, Dave, let's tell them.
Let's make it. All right, so what coordinate are we going to use? Well, you're going to see that as soon as we write the code, but you can make sure you're ready to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag a forever loop in here. So I'm in the control area grabbing a forever loop in here. And what we want to do is we want to listen for somebody pressing the left arrow or the right arrow key. So we're going to have 2 if statements. So go ahead and structure this like this. And then the thing that Bob is asking about is going to be on the insides of these. So forever, very mean to tell humans to do something forever. If this thing happens, so this thing that we're going to do is if we press the left arrow key, then we do this code in here. And this is going to be the answer to Bob's question. Are we going to move an X or are we going to move a Y is really what the question is. And then this is going to be the other direction. So if the top one's left, this one's going to be right. And we're going to move a direction here. Let's do it one thing at a time. We've got the forever loop. We've got the if statements in here. By the way, when you move the if statements in, if they don't look like mine, let's say they look like they're kind of like swallowing each other like that, that's no good. And that's fine. You can just drag it and then move things around. You'll eventually get really good at Scratch to where you can drag and move things around. The important thing to know is that if you drag something, it drags that one, everything below it, and everything inside of it, right? So if you drag this one, they both go. So sometimes you just have to break them apart and then put them back together. You'll get good at it, don't worry. All right, let's see if we can figure out what goes in that condition, and then we'll do the movements that are right here. So you'll notice that it's a hexagonal shape. And so we need a hexagonal command to go in there. Go into sensing. You'll notice that some of the commands in here have this 6-sided hexagonal shape. And we want one that has to do with keyboard keys. And so it's this one right here. Now this one right here, key space pressed, you'll notice it has that white drop down. That white drop down is going to be important. So what I want to do is I want to drop this inside that hexagonal shape. You can see when it's going to work. It's because there's this like white outline. So think about the left tip going in there, and so put it in there and drop it in there. I'm going to drop another one down here. Plop. Now this white drop down arrow says space right now. I want to switch this to left arrow, and then I want to switch this one to right arrow. All right, I've stalled about as much time as I can for you. So when you press the left arrow, you want the piggy to be moving over this way. And you can see it on the screen here. It's the X that's going to move. Now this is tricky. There's a couple ways you can move the X. One way, so go to motion, and we'll kind of show you the ways. One way is to use this command, change X by. I could do that. That'd be an option. But watch the solution really quick. Watch it carefully. You'll notice that when I hit the left arrow, 2 things happen. One is it switches the direction of the pig. So there's actually a direction switch that happens here. And then there's also a secondary motion that happens. So there's actually two things that happen. So if I just did one of them, if I just did this change X by, the pig would always be with his tail on the same side. So I'm going to actually do two things. I'm going to click on this point in direction. And then I'm going to set one of them to be left and the other to be right. So left, it says 90. Oh boy. Bob, you want to tell us about angles?
Yeah, sure. If you click on that 90, you'll see that there's this circle that appears and a little white arrow that actually tells us what 90 means. If you've ever been thinking about degrees of an angle, that's what we're talking about here. You may have heard someone say, I'm going to, if you like basketball, you may hear someone does a 360, or if you watch figure skating, you'll see the same thing. 360 degrees is all the way around in a circle. And so you'll see as Dave was dragging this around, it went from 90 to 180. Well, this actually does something a little different. Rather than continuing on positive, it actually flips to negative, because if he goes around the other way, you'll see that direction pointing directly left is negative 90, and eventually it gets all the way around. And I don't know if it'll actually say negative 180 or positive 180. It looks like it says positive 180. But we've gone 180 degrees when we went halfway around this way, and 180 more degrees when we went around that way. And sure enough, if you add up 180 and 180, you get 360. Excuse me. Well, in this 90 degrees, as you can see, is pointing due right, and negative 90 is pointing due left. And so he's going to set these angles so that when the key is pressed, the piggy points in the correct direction. And then when you point in a direction, the motion just follows. So his next step will be to add some motion, and we'll be very confident that the piggy will go the direction we want it to go.
Cool. Thanks, Bob. All right. So I was like getting explanations on things there. So I think the next thing we want to do is we want to add a move command. And so you'll notice that we never used that change X by. And it's because we actually just set the direction first. And then once we set the direction, it does a move. So I drag in a 10. So now when I move left, it goes 10. I think this actually goes a little faster than my solution. But I don't mind going a little faster. Another thing that I'll point out is that we did one thing for you in the starting code that I didn't even really think about until this minute. This piggy, if you click on, this is probably more information than you needed. Sprites can flip upside down, or they can just mirror left and right. I've got him set on a mode where he mirrors left and right. The default mode, I'll just kind of show this to you, it's terrible. The default mode is all around. And so with all around, he would kind of go that way, and then he'd flip upside down and go that way. Some games, that is what you want, but not this one, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and put his mode back to left, right. That was already set correctly for you. I just wanted to warn you that, because if you try to do something on your own and it flips upside down, you're like, that's not what happened with Dave and Bob. That's why. All right. So I think
Another really quick thing, Dave said that he likes the fact that his piggy's moving faster in this version than in the original. This is where you get to put your own flavor on this. If you want your piggy to move more slowly, that 10, think about it for a second, pause it if you want. We want to actually make that 10 smaller if we want to go fewer steps each time around. So you'll notice Dave changed it to 5, and now when he holds down the key, the piggy's only moving 5 steps at a time. This does take some time to loop around the code. If that was instantaneous, it probably wouldn't matter what number we put in there, but there is a slight delay. And so we see that motion move more slowly when we move fewer steps per loop.
And slower actually makes the game harder, because you gotta like run away a little like more advanced. So you can set it wherever you want, 10 or 5, but wherever you want to do it sounds great. All right, let's make, so I'll go ahead and zoom out here so you can see it. So the piggy still will have more code coming, but let's take some time to deal with the coin. So I'll go ahead and switch over to the coin. By the way, I can leave my backdrop to this, or I can switch back to the forest. It doesn't really matter. I'll switch it back to the forest, but I guarantee I'm going to regret it, because I'm sure we're going to want the grid back again at some point, because it's handy. All right, so the coin. What we're going to do with the coin is that if you think about the solution, there's actually like mini coins, right? So there's like a whole bunch of them that go at a time. We're not going to worry about that at the start. We're just going to try to make one coin randomly start somewhere and fall to the bottom of the screen. So that's our goal. We're going to do that with one coin. Then we'll worry about mini coins later, right? All right, so typically I start the same way. I start with when green flag clicked. All right, and I'll zoom in a little bit to make this happen. Now our goal with this coin is to make it start at the top of the screen. So, I could put it to the top of the screen here, kind of where you can see a little bit of it. And so I could go to motion, and I will go ahead and add this. I could add this go to XY. Now your number might be a little different from mine, but it probably is somewhere near 0 if you put it near the middle. And it's somewhere around 170-ish, something like that. And the reason it's around 170-ish, I told you it wouldn't last long, is because the very top of the screen is 180, and I'm just a little below that. So 170 is where I'm at on that. Now, the problem with this game is that if I play it one time, my coin goes there. And then next time I play it, my coin goes to that same spot. All my coins always start in that spot. What we want to do is we want to introduce some randomness. So we've got to find, how do you introduce randomness? Because 172 on the X or something around there. Sorry, 172 on the Y is fine or something around there. But the X, I want to have a big range. The place where you're going to find randomness is in the green area, operators. And it's this number right here, pick random. So take this pick random and then make it to where the left edge is on this circle. Again, just make sure that you get that white outline that tells you that you can let go. All right, so now the chance for Dr. Bob. What range of values do we want to put in? So we put in 1 to 10, and I hit the green flag. You can see it moved a little bit. So every time I hit the green flag, it moves a little bit, and it's kind of moving around that range. So, Dr. Bob, you want to walk them through what they might want to make the range?
Yeah, sure. This is another opportunity to kind of use the tools that you have in front of you to help you answer the questions that you need to solve. So as Dave grabs that nickel and kind of moves it around, he can get an idea for what the optimum positions might be. Now, if you look at the grid, it suggests that negative 240 is the farthest left. However, if he was to try to drag that nickel as far left as that, it probably would be very, very hard to see and wouldn't make for a very good game. In fact, that center of that is now well past the edge of our screen. So when we designed this game the first time, what we did is we brought the coin into just about where the whole thing was showing. And we would let the value that showed up in that X button, you can see down there, it's negative 210, be our guide for where we wanted to have the leftmost possible position for this coin. And you could probably take a guess of what the rightmost possible is, since this is a symmetric. I don't know if we know that word yet, but symmetric means same on one side as the other. So this has left-right symmetry. And so on the right-hand side, he could drag it over, or he could just know that that is going to be 210 when he gets it in the same position on the right. So he's now set up his random to be from the far left extreme to the far right extreme. And as he pumps that green flag button just to test, you can see that that nickel is showing up anywhere along the screen on the top, but its Y coordinate is always staying just a hair below the top of the screen, ready for us to put in the next code and tell it to fall.
Cool. Another thing I wanted to mention is I must have clicked at some point on the word nickel because mine's showing up as a nickel. Yours might be showing up as the thief, which may have bugged you. But you can always switch it in here. In fact, the next line of code we're going to write is we're going to randomly pick a costume. So when these coins fall, we don't always want them to be the same. We want them to be different. So actually this idea of random we're going to use again. And we're going to go to the looks area. And we're going to find the switch costume to. Now, the way this switches is you could set it to quarter, right? And then it would just always be quarter. You could set it to dime, and it's always a dime. You get the idea, right? You can set it to penny. So what we want to do is we want to randomly set it. Now, I've got some good news for you. Costumes can be referred to by their name, but we also mentioned they could be referred to by their number, which is up here. So I can actually say, switch to costume 3, and that would be the nickel. So we can actually use the same trick, pick random, and we can actually drop it. I know it doesn't look like you could drop it there, but you totally can. Drop it right there on that selection area. See if you can think for a minute, what should the numbers be this time? So I'm going to pick a random costume. I could pick costume number 1. Costume number 1 is the quarter. But what should this value right there be? So hopefully you thought it over. There's 5 costumes, so it should be the number 5. 5. So now when we run it, it should give you a random coin, or the thief, who's also considered a coin in this case, and it should be a random location. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and I'll share one more thing. We calibrated, that's a fancy word for, figured out what our numbers were based on the nickel. And then shortly after, Dave went over and clicked on the quarter. Now, the quarter is a little bigger than the nickel. We based the position on where the nickel would just perfectly fit. And if he goes until he finds a quarter and then drags that over to the right position, I'm guessing we'll find that we should probably scoot that over a little bit from 210 if we care. So if you don't like the fact that that's a little bit over the edge, I think in our original version of the game, we actually put it at negative 200. So depending on how you calibrate, you have to think if there's other costumes that are going to actually behave a little differently, you need to take them all into account when you're doing your design.
Cool. Fun little point. To me, it just doesn't matter. So I'm just
we're all good.
All right, let's make it start falling. So to make it start falling, there's different commands we could use. But really what we want to do is we want the Y to kind of like animate and like get a little bit smaller like every time through. So what I'm going to choose to do is I'm going to choose to use a forever loop again. So I like forever loops. And I'm going to this time, instead of using a point and direction and move, I don't really want him to rotate. I just want to change the value, and I want to change his Y value. So I want him to go straight down. The Y value starts at I think it's 172 here. It's going to get less and less and less. It's going to eventually come down to 0, and then it's going to get negative more and more and more. And so I want to go to motion, and I want to change the Y by. Now you got to be a little careful here because there's 4 options. There's change X, set X, change Y, and set Y. And if you think about what these do, change will take it from wherever it's at and make it a little bit different. And so change Y is what we want. If we were to set Y, it would not care about where it was before, and it would just set it to a certain thing, right? Now, you've also got to think about what's the value here. So positive, if I were to run this right now, it would not do very good, right? In fact, it kind of, if your eyes are really good, you can see it actually tried to go up, which was no good. That's because down is negative. So I'm going to change it to negative. And I don't know what a good speed is. I'm going to see what 5 looks like. 5 is okay. 5 might be a little fast. Maybe I'll do -2. And you get to play with these things and you get to tweak them. It's probably okay. That might be a little slow.
Yeah, this is where you get to decide. I know in our solution game, we had it drop at 5, and makes the game more challenging if the coins are falling faster. Of course, the speed with which the piggy moves is also a factor in how easy or hard the game is. And then you get to decide if you want to make the game harder as you get better at it, just to challenge yourself.
I think I'm feeling fast today, so I'm going to make the coins go at 5, and I'm going to step the piggy up to 10 today.
Alrighty.
I don't know why. And you can just kind of play with it, and you kind of see what it's like. Oh yeah, my piggy zooms right now. And then it might be too easy, right? So dodge that. Get back over. Cool. That'll be fun. All right, so we've got 1 coin right now. You can see that 1 coin is great. 1 coin goes from top to bottom. If I catch the coin, nothing really happens because we haven't written code for that yet, right? So one thing you'll discover about code is it does what you tell it, not necessarily what you want. And so we've got two problems. We've got the fact that I don't catch it and the fact that there's only one of them. I'm going to fix the problem to where there's only one of them first, I think is what I'm going to do. All right, so I've got my one coin here. I'm going to switch my backdrop back to the forest, which I'm sure I'll regret later because that's how I do things. And what I want to do is I want to make many of them. So clones. Clones are super cool. So a clone is just like the original, but a second one of them. And there's a different command you need instead of when green flag clicked to start off a clone. And so go to the control area and find the bottom three commands in this section. So I'd zoom in on this if I could. So clones have three commands that are associated with them. There's the event, when I start as clone. That's an important one to know. There's create a clone. We're going to clone myself. Wouldn't that be fun? And delete clone. Now, to be honest, this first one is an event, so it should be in the events area, but they kept them all together, right? So here's what we want to do. I'm going to move all of this code from there to over here. Now, when the green flag is clicked, so I click the green flag, suddenly nothing happens. I mean, I can still move the piggy, but the coin doesn't fall anymore. And that's because when green flag clicked has no code, and then the event when I start as clone never occurs, right? So there's no clone happening, right? So let's fix this. Let's add some code over here. So what I want to do over here is I want to create a clone. Now, if I do just one, you can see that it creates one, which is kind of fun. If I do 3 and I hit go, you can see that I got 3 clones. That's pretty cool, isn't it? I think that's cool. And so things are going good. Ooh, that one's kind of neat. The dime and the quarter were so close I could barely see the difference. So things are going good, but things could be going better, right? Bob, what do you notice that's a problem, and what do you want to fix first?
Boy, yeah, I think the people watching probably realize a few different things. We've got a bunch of coins that are just hanging out on the ground. As we go through, we're gonna have to get rid of some of these.
Yeah, so we got coins that are hanging around on the ground. So Bob wants to fix that first. And so there's all kinds of things that we could fix. Let's go ahead and fix that. So what really happens is the coins are sitting on the ground, and I couldn't collect them, and they also just stay sitting there. So let's go ahead and fix the sitting on the ground first. So I told you I'd regret not having my grid on. And so when these coins get so low, like maybe they get down to like negative 180 or negative 170, really what we want to do is we just want to make them go away, right? So that's one thing that we're going to fix. So whenever their Y gets that low, just go away. We didn't catch you, just go away. And so I'm going to want a if statement. If statements are in control. And I'm going to put an if statement on here that says if something happens, then, and the then I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the clone. Make sure that that goes into the right spot. Now, the thing that's going to happen is that their Y value gets more negative than I'm going to use negative 170. So I'm going to get an operator. This is where we got that pick random from. And I'm going to find the less than operator. By the way, you could have actually grabbed either. It's just a matter of how you set it up. But I'm going to pick the less than operator. So if this thing here is less than, and I'm going to change the number to negative 170. So if it's less than negative 170, then I delete this clone. The thing that goes here is my Y position. That's actually a variable that already exists. It's in motion. And it's right here, Y position. All right, so now we try it out. So it's going to change the Y by negative 5. So it's going to make it 5 less than what it was. And if it gets more negative than negative 170, this like hurts my brain to think about. So if it's like negative 175, then that's less than negative 170, and so it should get deleted. All right, so now I run it again. My coins fall, and then at the bottom they disappear, right? So if I don't catch them, they disappear. Cool. So still probably a lot of things you notice that need to get fixed. I kind of enjoyed that game of letting Bob play. By the way, if we were in a room, I would let you pick what you wanted to fix next. Bob, what would you like to fix next?
Well, what I'm noticing is that we've got three coins falling at once. That's going to be very, very hard for us to navigate. I think you put it in as a test, but can we get that back to the real number that we're going to want?
Yeah. So creating 3 clones is not the goal. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take these and I'm just going to move it back over to the code and let go. And that's how you trash it. So instead what we want to do is we want to continually make them. And we're going to make them like once every couple of seconds. Maybe once every 1 second. So let's go ahead and fix that. Let's go to event, or let's go to control. And let's forever. What we're going to do is we're going to make a clone. So create clone of myself. And now if we run this, people like to do this, it's going to go kind of badly because it's going to make a whole bunch of clones, right? So, I mean, that's a little on the fun side, but it's not the goal. But I had to do it because I knew it was going to be fun. Whew, that's okay. Stop. Let's put a delay in here. By the way, I can do things like that whenever I have control of the room. But man, if I did that in a classroom, like I would lose them for like half an hour with that little scheme. All right, so things are going.
I think you might have lost some of our viewers. They're just going to stay there and play with the raining coins.
Raining coins. So what makes this game better is something roughly more on the order of once a second. Another thing that we chose to do, and this is optional in the solution, is we had it kind of hover at the top for a moment. So if you look closely at the solution, this is optional. It actually kind of hovers there for a minute and then it falls. And the reason we did that is because we wanted people to see it, think about it, and then like have a second to like get out of the way. If you wanted to do that, you totally could. It's just another one of these 1 seconds. And you stick this 1 second like, so it picks this first stuff, right? So it's going to go right in here. It picks this first stuff, like where am I going to be at? What cost am I going to be? And then it waits for a second before the forever loop. If you stick it in the forever loop, you're going to regret it because it's going to move super slow. So I'm just going to wait there for 1 second and then begin the forever loop. And then this kind of gives it that slight pause at the top, which gives you a second to think about whether you want to be under it or not. Cool. So I think that we fixed another one of Dr. Bob's concerns. What do you feel like doing, Bob? What do you want to fix next?
Well, we got 2 things left that I see at least. I'd love to be able to catch these coins.
Yeah, that's kind of lame that we're like right here. I'm right here.
They're just falling right through us. We're a bank. We should be able to catch them.
Yeah, we should be able to catch this. So let's see if we can add that. We'll add it one piece at a time. There's a couple pieces that are going to go into this. The first thing I need is another if statement, very similar to the if statement here. So let's go ahead and drag over this if statement. Again, being careful that it didn't swallow the other ones, right? That'd be no good. I want it to be kind of cleanly after it. And what I want to do is I want to see if I'm touching the hero or not. So this is in sensing. And I want to find the one that says touching hero. You can look down through here and it won't quite exist, but this top one is actually the one you want. The one that says touching mouse pointer, so it's got that white down arrow thing. I'm going to put that right here. And then I'm going to click on this little white down arrow, and sure enough, I can switch it to my hero sprite. I paused there for a minute just because I had some yahoos come in. I don't know how well I could hear them. Hey, Bowen, can you be I'll whisper quiet like a mouse for another minute? All right, thanks, Bo. All right, so I dropped the I just realized I should do another pause just to make it easier to cut back. All right, so I dropped the touching hero in here. And then I'm going to start by just doing one simple thing. I'm going to do delete this clone. Now that will catch it, and it will go away. But really nothing else happens, right? And so we definitely want some more things to happen. For one, I want to be able to make a little bit of noise, right? I want to be able to play a little sound. This coin has a sound built into it called coin. Pretty good name. And I'm just going to find that in sound, and I'm going to say, start the sound coin. I'm just going to try this. So now I catch it. And you can see the thief played the same sound as everybody else. That's something we're going to fix later, Bob, in our version that we do together. But it's kind of fun that it makes a sound when I catch it. When I don't catch it, they just kind of quietly disappear. But when I catch them, they make the sound, which is fun. Cool. All right, so still a lot more to fix. All right, we took a short break, but we're back. Bob, what are we going to do next?
You know, I've noticed that penny has just been sitting floating. And, you know, I think our keen viewers might recognize what's happening because if they think about it, all of the ones that are moving are clones. And so we need to go in and put something to get that one out of the way. It'll be fun to watch what happens when you fix that, because we're going to have to fix something else right after it.
All right, so I think what I'll do is the original one gets this little green flag click, and then all the clones get this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the original one. I'll hide it right there. All right, green flag.
Where are all the clones?
What happened? All right, so the question is, what just happened? So maybe you can look at it, maybe you spot it right away. But Bob, you want to tell us what happened?
Yeah, once you hit that one, it turns out all the clones are being cloned of a hidden coin. And so every single clone is now hidden, so we can't see them. So we have to put in the opposite of a hide. You can probably see what that is. Dave's going to go ahead and find that show.
Grab a show.
And throw that on the clone code.
Yeah, and there's a couple places you could put it. It's fine. You probably want to do it before this wait, because the whole point of the wait is that you can see it for a moment before you do it. So I think I'm going to stick it in right here. You could put it at the very top. That'd be fine. But to be honest, it might be weird because it's going to show up and then move. So I'm going to let it get fully positioned, get the right costume. Then I'm going to show it just before that wait. And now our game is going to behave much better. So now the original is gone, and I'm able to catch things. And the sound on the thief is just like a coin. By the way, if I don't catch things, they just hit the bottom, no sound. But they do go away. They don't just build up. All right, so things are going good. We got rid of that original hidden coin. What do you want to do next?
I don't think we need that grid background anymore. To shift that one back to our
grid is
fun, happy background.
Obsolete, so I just clicked on the background over there, and then I clicked on backdrops. And you can use any backdrop you want. We've been using this this forest here. Great. Now, when you're done,
and all the viewers, you probably didn't have that XY grid. That was just something we put on the screen to kind of inform you on what X's and Y's were.
Cool. And just as a reminder, whenever you switch to this one, it has code. Our hero has this code right here. Our coin actually has the most complex code. All right, so things are going pretty good. I'm catching coins. We've still got Far Cry to go from the solution. What do you want to fix next?
I think it might be time to start getting some points for all these things that we're catching. We've got if I remember right in our game, we have some sort of a target, and as we catch coins, we're going to get different values that accumulate. This is going to add a whole bunch of code, but I think it's time. Yeah, just to glance at the solution, we have a variable for how much you have, and so as you collect things, it goes up. And then we have a variable for you want. Maybe we'll just do the you have first. Does that sound okay, Bob? Sure. And Dave mentioned this word variable. We actually I don't think we used that word yet. In the game, it just looks like a score and a target. But inside code, there's got to be something that remembers that. And variable, if you just look it up in the dictionary or look at a definition of it, it means something that can change. Variable in code is a little reminder, something that'll remember something for you, and it can be updated as you need to change it.
Yeah, I think that when coding first started, they picked variables and that name kind of stuck. But really, it's all about like saving the state of the world, right? So they could have been called like state savers. Maybe variables was better. All right. So normally, so go ahead and click on the variable section in Scratch. Normally, what you see when you first come in here is actually a bunch of orange stuff. That's because they make a variable for you by default in most projects called my variable. I deleted that on you, so you have nothing. But that's okay. Click on where it says make a variable, and then you have to pick the name of the variable. Now, to be honest, when you get into coding, like for real, you'll have like rules for how you name variables. You'll see this thing called camel case. Don't want to go into it today. But in Scratch, you can name it whatever you want. And so we pick the name you have. And the reason we pick the name you have is because we know how it's going to display. It's going to display like you have 0, you have 5, you have 6. So it's kind of a weird name. By the way, there's this option for all sprites or for this sprite only. The default is for all sprites. Leave that as is. And we'll just call this variable you have. Now, a variable is kind of fun. A variable is a number that it gets saved in the state of the game. In Scratch, it can display on the screen as well, so you can see it all the time. By the way, if you ever want to hide it, there's a little checkbox over here to hide it, and it goes away. Or you can click this checkbox. We want to see this one, right? So we'll put it right there. Now, the life of a variable, oh, this is kind of neat. You can switch the readout type. I didn't mean to do that, but you can make it just show up like that, or as a slider. Normal readout will be just fine. Thank you. So the life of a variable, there's a couple steps with variables. Number one is you have to create the variable. So you can see that it exists now. It has like, it's a thing we can use. And typically what you want to do is you want to set its value to some initial starting thing. It's like, have you ever played a video game and like you've got a score and like, you say new game, that score should probably start at 0, right? You don't want the score to start where the last person left it off. So somewhere in your game, you need to set it to 0. Now, there's a couple places where you could set it to 0, but usually what I'm looking for is I'm looking for one of these win green flag clicked. I could potentially go put it on the hero, but I'm right here in the coin. I think that I'll just stick it right in the coin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a set. So there's set and there's change. Make sure you grab set. I'm going to grab this set you have to 0. I'm just going to put it right there. So even if it was something weird, I'll tell you what, I'll just show you how you could change it. So I'm going to use this slider so you can actually like change it. Even if it was set to something weird, like I just picked a number here, whenever I click the green flag, it will set its value to 0. So you start the game with 0 monies, right? All right. Now what are we going to do? We're going to need to modify this variable somewhere. Bob, where do you think we should modify this variable?
Well, we've got a couple pieces of code that do things to the coin, and if we wait till it hits the ground, that's one we missed. So we don't actually want to change it there. We are interested in changing it when the piggy bank has caught it.
Yeah.
We've actually touched the hero. So right there in that code where you put the cursor, we're going to have to put a whole bunch of code, or I think you've got another idea.
Yeah, so right on. So a lot of the times, if every coin counted as 1, it'd be easy. What I would do, and I'm not going to do this, I would take this change and I would just stick it right in here. So like just before or just after playing the sound, I just add 1. A lot of games you just add 1 when you hit something. This is a little more complex, right? Because we've got quarter, nickel, dime, penny, and a thief, right? So there's 5 options. Now, we could put a bunch of code in here, but it would get really complicated. So we're going to show you another really cool thing you can do. It's normally called making a function. It's complex first day. But in Scratch, it's called making a block. So just like we went to a new area with variables, go to this new area called My Blocks. Just like with variables, you don't have any yet, so it's all empty. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a block. I'm going to talk about what a block really is in a little bit, but let's make one first. It'll help if we just kind of make it and you trust me for a moment. Click on Make a Block. We're going to call this block Add Coin Value. Takes a little while to type. So a block is really like reusable code that you could call from somewhere else as many times as you wanted, or it's just a way to keep your code organized. Most languages, yeah, so a function. A function could be complex. There's all these complex things you could do. Don't do any of those complex things. It's our first day. Add coin value and just hit OK. So here's what a block really is. It does two things for you. It gives you a new block, right? So all these things, now it kind of makes sense. All these things are blocks. All these things are functions and things you can do. This is really letting you make your own. So you're going to take this add coin value and you're going to stick it right in here. You can do it before the sound, after the sound, doesn't really matter. I'm going to put it right there because that's where I happen to be sitting. Now what happens when this block runs, it actually kind of jumps over here, and whatever this code does, it runs that thing. So just to be silly, this is I'm going to delete this. I'm going to have it say hello for 2 seconds. So now when I run it, when the coin hits it, it's just going to say hello for 2 seconds, right? So you kind of get the idea of what blocks do. Now we don't want to say hello for 2 seconds. That's not our goal. So I'm going to pull that back off, and I'm going to throw that into the trash can. Goodbye. What I really want to do is I want to know if it's a penny, then I'm going to add 1. If it's a nickel, I'm going to add 5. You can kind of hear in my words what I'm saying. If it's a penny, then add 5, right? Sorry, then add 1. So we need an if statement. If statements live over in control, so click on control and find the if statement here. Now we're eventually going to make quite a few of these. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one, make it like beautiful, and then I'm going to duplicate it for the others. So what I want to do is I want to say if the costume is a certain costume, and the way I can do that is in operators. I want to say if the costume number equals something. So grab this one, equals. It goes right into there. All right. How do I know what costume it is? That's in looks. And it's actually a built-in variable, which is kind of cool. Costume number, isn't that kind of neat? Now let's talk about shapes in Scratch. You'll notice that this if statement was like this little hexagon diamond-y thing, and then this drops right into it. And it's a hint by the shape that it drops in here. And so this costume number, you can see it's got like rounded edges. And so you can probably guess it drops right into there. Again, make sure you get that little white outline before you let go. Usually just put the left tip in there and it'll just drop right in. So, costumes. The costumes have names: quarter, dime, nickel, penny. They also have numbers: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so, just for fun, I'm going to do a penny first. That's not how the solution works, but that's how I'm going to do it. So if it's costume number 4, then I'm going to change the current score by just 1. Now make sure you notice the difference between set. So a set doesn't care what it was before, it just sets it to 0. But now I want to change it because I want to increase it. So go to variables, find where it says change. Change you have by 1. Well, costume 4 is a penny, so change by 1. That's pretty good. Now, we got a lot of coins. We got 4 coins plus the thief. You could do that same game again. You could bring over an if, you could bring over equals, you could bring over costume. You get the idea. In live coding, I ask students, how many people in here are lazy? Right? So I'm lazy. I like to do things the easy way. And the easy way is you can right-click on the word if. By the way, the people I teach, they use Chromebooks and they have to 2-finger click. So they call it a 2-finger click there. So I right-click on the word if, and I say duplicate. Now you'll notice that I've got 2 of them. So I stick it on there. Now this is the best part. Right-click again on the word if, and say duplicate again. And notice that this time it gives you not 1, but it gives you 2 of them. Oh, well, that works out really nicely because I've got 4 total. I've still got to worry about the thief. I'm going to do the thief last. All right, now you've got the most classic error in programming, a copy-paste error. So you've got to be really careful about changing these to all be perfect. Since I started with 4, I guess I could do 4, 3, 2, 1. Maybe that'd be fun. So, or I could, you know what? I could also just fix the order now. Let's do it fixed. So I'm going to do costume 1, costume 2, costume 3. Costume 1, I believe, was quarter. So 25. Costume 2 is a dime. So
everybody can be playing ahead and trying to think of the number he's going to be typing in. If you want to pause it and think about it, feel free. If you don't know your coins, that's okay. You're going to learn them right now.
Yep. So this one is a 10-cent dime and then a 5-cent nickel. Cool. So still have a long way to go, but I can hit the green flag, and now I can catch things, and it's going up, which is cool. Now ask yourself this question. What happens when I catch a thief? All right, so let's try it. So I catch a thief. Nothing. Nothing happened when I caught a thief, right? So the reason nothing happened is because we haven't coded up anything to happen. Just as a challenge for you, this one's going to be a little different. It's going to have some similarities, but it's going to be a little different. So we need one more. So I'm going to right-click on this bottom if, and I'm going to say duplicate. See if you can figure out, I haven't even connected yet, see if you can figure out how to connect it and make it do what a thief does. And a thief should reset your score to 0. So pause the video and try that. Bob, I had a ding I wanted to check as well.
Oh, okay.
It was a kind of a planned thing. The kids' bus today is canceled, so I'm worried that they'll get home fine.
Gotcha.
Looks like this is track was canceled. So McKinley's track got canceled. I'll get Sis at 3:25. All right, so I've got that actually kind of helped me a little bit because I wasn't sure what time I needed to go. So I've got to go at about 3:05 now. All right. Cool.
You're good
yeah,
for another half hour.
Yeah. So basically, we're gonna
stop early. Let me know. We're good this week, and then you're going to be off next week, right?
Oh yeah, I think because the kids are home, and whenever the kids are home, it's just hard to do things.
Yeah, and then we were going to be good the following week.
Yeah, I was daydreaming that we might start the next video, but my thoughts are we'll probably finish this video and then just call it a day for today. But that's fine.
Yeah, there's a bit to still do, but we might get close enough to. I don't think it makes sense to do just 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Probably not going to get there.
Yeah, it's rock, scissors, paper. That should be a pretty easy one. Basically, our next one's going to be easy. Then there's going to be some hard ones. All right, you ready to dive back into this one?
Yeah, we had them. You said pause the video, and you're probably going to say something like whatever the thief's going to do.
Cool. All right, so hopefully you paused it and you gave it a go there. So the first thing you got to do is you got to set it to the right costume. So it's costume number 5. And then the thing that's different about the thief is that if you thought it's like, oh, I need to change this to a 0, that actually doesn't work. And the reason that doesn't work is because the thief doesn't care how much money you have. He's just going to set you to 0. So I'm going to actually take this change and throw it in the trash and put in a set you have to 0. And then you can try it again. So as you catch coins, they make you go up. Everything's good. And then when you hit the thief, it takes you to 0. By the way, it bothers me, I don't know why it bothers me, that the thief makes a coin sound. If it bothers you, this is an optional fix. If it bothers you, you could actually take this coin sound and bust it out of there. And then you could duplicate this This is optional. You don't have to do this. And you could have these guys play coin sounds. And I'm doing this kind of fast because it's optional. If you want to do it, you can pause the video and you can see how to do it. And then I would actually kind of like a different sound for the robber, right? The way sounds work in Scratch is there's this sounds tab, and you can only play sounds that you know how to play, right? It's like, I don't know, tracks of a CD, right? You can play track 1, and track 1 for this is coin, so I can play that. But it needs to know how to play other tracks. And so let's go to choose a sound. And really, there should be some sound that kind of represents losing, right? We can do that. That's a little extreme. We can do that. It doesn't matter. I'm going to put lose on here. It's kind of a long sound, just to be perfectly honest. It's 3.7 seconds long. Kind of long. No big deal. Now, what I'm going to do in code is for the thief, I'm going to go into sound. And I'm going to play the lose sound. Another thing is, since it's so long, I might actually need to do the play, lose until done. I'm going to try this. Bob and I didn't prep this one, sorry. So I'm going to see if when I catch a coin, it goes beep, beep, beep. And then when I catch the thief, come on, thief. Seriously? No thief? There it is. That seemed to work fine. I thought maybe I was going to have to, since it was so long, switch to the play sound until done. But it seemed to work out just fine. Cool. All right. So I'm happy with that. Things are going pretty good.
Just to go back to this block idea and the function that you wrote, that also is technically optional. If Dave wanted to, he could remove the call to the block, add coin value in that code, and put this entire thing in that spot. It would just make that code really, really long. But it would do the exact same thing. When you define a block, it's usually just to make your code a little tidier, a little cleaner, a little tighter in some ways. So if you want to experiment with that or try that out and like really, really, really long code, you can do it. But as you get more and more into writing code, the convention is to write these blocks or functions to consolidate things or to separate them a little bit.
Yeah, so most people, like when you first start learning about functions, or we call them blocks here, they say it's like, oh, it's so you can write the code that gets used multiple times, like repeatedly. But this is really just using a function for the sake of organization, and I think it works pretty well for organization. All right, Dr. Bob, what do we want to do next?
We need a target.
We need a target.
We're just collecting coins and don't have any idea what we're trying to get to.
There's no game, right? Like, so there's
Not
no,
really.
there's no game. So we got to make it into a game. I mean, you don't have to, but we choose to. This variable I'm going to choose to put over on the hero, because the hero's going to be like, he's the one who knows what the target is, and he's going to be the one who's checking to see if we were victorious. You could put it over here, but I kind of like putting it over on the hero. So I'm going to go over to the hero pig. His code is quite simple. We actually haven't written any code for him in quite some time, so this would be kind of good. We're going to go back into variables, and we're going to make a new variable. This new variable, I think I called it in the solution you want. And again, that's kind of a weird name, but it's because we know the number's going to... You want 16. You want 30, something like that. All right, so I made this variable you want. I'm going to arrange them kind of side by side up here. I think that looks lovely. Now, right now, it says you want 0, right? Eventually, we want this to be randomized. Like, that's our goal, is to make it randomized. For initial testing, I'm going to hard code it to the number 25. And so here's what I'm going to do. I've made the variable. Next, I'm going to set its initial value up at the top. So I'm going to say set. So I'm going to grab this set. Now this is weird. It says set you have. This always gets people. I've got two variables now. The thing I want to set is not you have. I want to set you want. Right? So make sure you hit that white drop down and you change that. I can't even say how many people's codes I've seen where they didn't change the variable name. and we're going to hard code it to 25. Now, this is temporary. We're just going to hard code it to 25, and the reason we're doing that is to make it easier to win, right? So that we can actually like test our code, and then once our code all works, we'll do it. So it starts me off. I'm looking for 25. I could catch nickels. I could catch dimes. I could reset. I'm just going to wait for a quarter. There it is. Booyah! Got the quarter. Wait, nothing happened. Bob, they matched, but nothing happened. What's wrong, Bob?
One more piece of code we got to put in here.
Yeah.
We got to figure out when we've hit our target. We got to look for a win.
Yeah, so we got to look for a win. And so, like, yeah, sure, they match right now, but nothing happens. You just keep on going. And code is really notorious for doing what you tell it. And we just haven't written any code for that yet. So really what we want to happen, let's go look at the solution, see what happens over the solution. Now this one, it might take me a while to win. Maybe I'll just go until I get a pretty easy, there you go, 90 cents, probably won't take too long. So the thing that I want to happen, oops, I meant to catch that penny. You want to actually win the game. Oh, missed the nickel. And then when you win, we want everybody to stop moving. Come on, nickel. All right, now I'm just waiting around for a penny. I can do this. Cool. So at the moment we won, it did a bunch of stuff. It said how many coins you collected. It said 91 cents in this case. It played a sound effect, and all the other coins they froze. It was like freeze frame. So that's what we're going to try to do. So over in our pig, we want to check if you have equals you want. You can hear just in the words that I use what we're going to need. We're going to need to go to control, and we're going to need an if statement. Now I'm going to put this if statement very carefully at the very bottom. So I'm just going to make sure it goes right onto the bottom. And then I want to say you have equals you want. And so that's an operators. And it's this equals one. So I'm going to grab that, put it in. Super, going good, going good. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into variables. And we're going to say, does you have equal what you want? Heck, the sentence kind of reads almost, if you have equals you want, it almost reads. Then we're going to do a bunch of things. The list of things that we did, we spoke, we said 91 cents. So we're going to go ahead and go into looks. And we're going to say for a couple seconds. We said 91 cents is what we said. So the 91 was the variable, and then the word cents is just like a string. So we could type into here, right? Like we could type the word cents, but then we need to also like combine it with the variable. There's a special command called join. So just bear with me on this one. Go to operators and find the one called join. So join is kind of a neat thing. So what I'm going to join is I'm going to join how much you have. So instead of apple, I'm going to join that to the word cents and an exclamation. I'm also going to be super sneaky. In front of the word cents, I'm going to put a space. And then that space will make it look better. So it'll say like 91, a space, cents. So I'm going to say that, I don't know, maybe for 4 seconds. And I'm going to see what happens, right? So I love to test code. It's not done yet, but I want to test code, and I'm just waiting around for a quarter. So I'm going to see if I can sneak through and get that quarter. Yes, 25 cents. It worked great. Now, the thing that happened that's weird is the game kept going, right? So like I caught it. I won the game, and so I'll try to do it again here. But really not enough other stuff happened. Ooh, I'm going to catch it 25 that way. So I won, but the game just kept right on playing, right? In fact, afterwards, like I'm still going. So my ultimate goal is I want the game to stop. I want the game to be done at this point. I also want a sound effect. Do we have a sound effect ready to go? Oh, we got win right here. Cool. So this piggy already knows how to do that sound. So all I need to go is I need to go to sound. And I'm going to choose this option, start sound win. And I'm going to put it before this say. I'm going to describe what I'm doing here briefly. By starting the sound, these two things can happen at the same time. So I'm going to play the sound and I'm going to say this at the same time. If you use the other one, play until done, it would finish the sound and then say the thing. But we kind of want them at the same time. Also, if you put the sound second, like if you flop the order of those two, it wouldn't start the sound until it was done saying it. All right, so I want the sound to be going, I want to be saying it, and then when those things are done, I want to do what's called a stop all. This is a command that's in control. All right, so in control, here's stop all. And I'm going to stick it, you got to be really careful with this one. I'm going to stick it just below the say. I've definitely had students stick it outside of the if statement, like after the if statement. And that goes very badly because you run your code and it just immediately stops. It's because you only want to stop all if all these things have happened, right? All right, so let's give it a go. There's a chance that it's done, but not quite. Right? So honestly, like when I ran that, I thought it might be done, but it's not done. And you can see what happened. All right, I'm going to go for the 25 this way. The coins just keep on going during the 4 seconds. You could, if you're not a perfectionist, you could just let that go, right? Like, more power to you if you can. I can't, right? Like, the fact that the coins are still going for 4 seconds, no, can't handle it. Can't handle it. So, Bob and I both have kids, and if I want my kids to stop, I'll try to say it nicely, right? But essentially, I have to say the word stop, right? So I have to, in Scratch, it's called broadcast. I have to broadcast my voice and say, hey, stop, right? And so that's what we're going to do in Scratch as well. This is called event broadcasting, and it's over in events.
Yeah, the real issue here is that the say for 4 seconds, the code's doing what Dave asked it to do. It's taking 4 seconds to say that before it gets to the stop all, right?
Yep.
And then if you do stop all, you'll get there eventually. But the broadcast is going to give us a chance. Like he could have tried to maybe stop all earlier, but then you wouldn't be able to say anything. And if you say something and start saying it and then stop, it makes it hard for the game to do what you're telling it to do and for it to look good.
Yeah.
So this broadcast is going to give us a chance to kind of pause things before everything stops.
Yeah. It's so funny, all these little things that just kind of come up as you start coding. So the place where I want you to go, if you choose to fix this, you genuinely don't have to, is events, broadcast message 1. So I'm going to take this broadcast message 1, and I'm going to put it as the first thing that happens, right? So simultaneously, I'm going to broadcast message 1. I don't like this word message 1. I'm going to change that. I'm going to hit this drop down arrow. I'm going to rename it. I'm going to say new message. I'm actually just going to call it stop, right? So it's like I think I'm just like yelling into the room, stop, right? And so that's what he's going to do. There's nothing special about the word stop. You could yell the word Bob, and it would work just the same. But the point is just broadcasting a message doesn't actually do enough, right? It's like if I yell at my kids, stop, and they don't stop, then they keep right on going. Man, how am I going to get... Oh, there you go. There's my quarter. So here I did yell stop. I yelled it right here, but nobody was listening to me, right? So we've got to... Anytime you do communication like this, you've also got to code the other side. So go over to your coins. And this is going to be short. We're almost there. What they need to do is they need to say, when I receive, stop. The nice thing is they put this command just above the other one. So grab this, when I receive, stop. Now what I want to do is I don't want to stop the whole game. I just want to start my other scripts. I want to stop all my other scripts is my goal. And so there's a special command for this. It's kind of sneaky. It took me a while to find this in Scratch. I'll tell you what, I'm going to zoom in here. The thing you want to do is you want to stop these other scripts. And if you look at this stop all, grab a stop all and put it on here. It actually has a drop down arrow. And it took me a while to spot that. But if you click on that drop down arrow, it actually has stop other scripts in the sprite. And that is what we want. That way they'll stop falling, right? So when I receive stop, I'm now listening to somebody who yelled stop to me. I'm going to stop all the other scripts. And now we have what I think is a finished game. So now whenever actually we got to make it random still.
One more thing.
Yeah, one more thing. So 25. Cool. So I get the win, and they just freeze. They just hang out for a second, and then the stop all comes and it's nice and clean. Bob, what's the last thing we need?
Last thing we need is, if we were always going for 25 cents, this would be a pretty boring game. I think you need to come up with a range of values that you want to try to have in that target and let the game pick for it.
Cool.
For us, what our target is.
I kind of spoiled. Bob was probably going to have you try to find it, but you want to go with operators pick random and drop it right in there on the 25. Now, 1 to 10 would not be a very good game. You would only be allowed to catch, like, the small coins. I'm fine with whatever range you want to do, maybe, like, from 50 to $1.50. But it's your game. You decide what's fun. If you want to catch, $18, you can. Seems kind of boring. But maybe 50 to $1.50. Does that sound okay to you, Bob, or do you want to do a different range?
Sounds good. Yeah, I think the original game might have had a little bit lower start range, but...
Yeah, I'm just curious what...
I think you're...
Stop. Shouldn't have done it. All right, so time to try it. All right, so when we click the button, it randomly picks 147. That's what I get for making it so high. So I'm going to have to catch coins for a little while. Maybe I'll...
That's the beauty of quarters, right?
And the fun thing about this game is you do have to think for a little bit. So I've already got the right number of pennies. Ooh, now I don't want to catch any more quarters. I'll get this time. So right now... I need a nickel. There it is. Sweet. I'm good. So it's a fun game for you to play a little bit. It's also good for other people to try, right? So like I'm going to choose not to catch pennies, for example, because what I want is $1.40. But it makes you think about things. And you're probably pretty good at playing it, and you probably only ever do it right. But I've seen other people play it, and they catch robbers all the time. It's like, oh no, you caught the robber. So sorry. I caught the right one again, right? And so watch somebody else play it. It's a good time. Just to share, if you are signed in, which I do recommend you're signed in, I probably should have talked about that before, and you've validated your email address, so like a parent can help you with this, then you have the rights to click on this share button. This share button is really fun because then you can share it with like friends and family. So it's like, check out this cool game I made, right? And so you just copy this URL, you send it to somebody, and then they can enjoy your game, which is really fun. And so like grandparents, like most grandparents, they would love to see something like this, right? Let's go ahead and look at kind of some concluding comments for the day. So there was a lot of stuff in this game. I think it got a little bigger than I realized, at least, when we started. Of all these different concepts that we did, sounds, conditionals, variables, you could read the list. But really, some of the most important things we put on this very last slide, we always want to break problems down into smaller pieces. So you've got like the thing you're trying to do, and you do just enough to like get that working, and you test it, and then you kind of grow a little bit at a time. We kind of learned about how to make plans for the sequential problem solving, and we got really good at using all these different types of blocks. Bob, you want to give us any closing thoughts for the day?
Yeah, I think as you heard Dave just say, and as you probably found as you were watching this video, there's a lot of flexibility when you write code. There's a lot of things that you may have thought of while you were writing this code that made you think of a different game that you might want to write, or something different that you might have wanted to do with this game. And that's your choice. This is the beauty of code and being able to write code in this area on Scratch. You could, after you finish this game, you could always copy it, or what's called, I think on the site, remix it. And that allows you to use that as a starting point. And then maybe you want to have an easy version of the game that you just made, and then you want to make a hard version of the game. Maybe it's a higher target value that you were going for, a faster falling speed for the coins. Maybe you want to randomize the falling speed. Think about ways that you might be able to do that. There's always more you can do. You can always make it harder, more complex, more interesting. And at the end of the day, when you do those things, that makes it truly yours.
Yeah, what you were saying about changing those things, like, wouldn't it be fun if I had like a dollar bill? And then I was like, ooh, wouldn't it be fun if I had like ones and fives and tens? And I was like, okay. Hey, we really are glad you joined us. Most important thing, coding is fun. You can do this. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time. All right.
Yeah, next time when we do rock, paper, scissors.
Rock, paper, scissors. All right, see you then. Bye.